Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of D.E.I. Deathwatch, where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm your host, Scribelight. It's Monday. Anything going on? Kind of a busy last couple of days, huh? In the wonderful world. Almost seems like D.E.I. is an afterthought compared to everything else. But we soldier on because it still matters, even in the face of international global conflict. Anyway, who's joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon? Noah Sencio, hello. Walter Tomaszewski, hello. I've got a few more parts coming my way for my cardboard speaker system, but you sound great through what I've got now, Scribe. My cats get to hear your jokes, in high fidelity. Not high felinity or something. Because I was expecting to read 17 cat puns there. I'm mildly disappointed, but okay. Hello, Walter. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Blue-Eyed Scream, good afternoon. Morgan King, pardon me. Mushmouth today. Mike Savage, Blarg. Shady Grin, hello. Keeverdam, hello, and thank you, Keeverdam. Guys, at the top of the chat box, a different fundraiser this time around. You may know him as Truckin' with a Tablet in the chat previously, but Truckin' with a Tablet needs some help. Not much in the grand scheme of things, but it helps out. Has some medical bills, unforeseen circumstances. Please take a look at the link in the top of the chat box when you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the link. Also, Miranda Stone is here. The magical, the mythical, the meticulous Miranda Stone. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard about Miranda Stone, but on the off chance you haven't, O1 Portnoy, good afternoon. Somnamnul Nation, hello. Daryl Odell, hello. Draco Rincewind, hello. Theater Winch Ginger, hello. Robert Pincus, good afternoon. Kiro Soldier, hello. Spoonie the Rebel, hello. Jill Powers, the River Daughter, hello. And Attack Alpaca, hello. And anybody I missed, anybody lurking, anybody in the future, good afternoon. Let's see. So we have stories, lots and lots of stories. Let's start off with the premiere story, the title story, our top story. Is that I said in one of my first streams of 2026, is 2026 the year of DEI's reckoning? Well, bit by bit, it might be starting to happen. 5 Philly police officers sue over DEI, backed by a Trump-aligned legal team. Because Trump's alignment immediately makes the legal basis of their suit suspect, I guess. The police officers say they were passed over for promotions in favor of candidates with lower civil service exam scores because of a 2021 policy change to promote diversity. 5 police officers say in a new federal lawsuit they were skipped over for promotions because of a Philadelphia policy change to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the municipal workforce. The officers, Christopher Bloom, Colin Berg, Joseph Musumesi, Mark Manachalo, and Leroy Ziegler, claim they were victims of a, quote, illegal and discriminatory policy change adopted by city council and Philadelphia voters in the aftermath of Black Lives Matter protests that swept the nation. The lawsuit is a proposed class action on behalf of all white male employees of the Philadelphia Police Department who were passed over for promotions since 2021 in favor of a candidate with lower exam scores. The complaint was filed by a team of attorneys affiliated with President Donald Trump who have sued the city previously over diversity initiatives. Okay, how successful were they previously? The change at the heart of the latest lawsuit is related to the so-called Rule of Two. The Sith Order has been operating in Philadelphia this whole time? What? The so-called rule of two that required city managers to choose between the two candidates with the highest civil service exam scores. The rule was an often cited reason for the limited diversity in the workforce. You mean the limited diversity of qualified individuals, or do you mean diversity in some other way? I know what you mean. Voters got rid of the requirement through a ballot question in 2021, giving the city more discretion to tailor the number of finalists for a position. Yes, because hiring the most qualified people was obviously unfair. The 5 officers sought promotions in November, 3 from lieutenant to captain and 2 from sergeant to lieutenant. All were, quote, passed over for one of these promotions on account of their race and sex, unquote, the suit says. The complaint filed Wednesday in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania quotes from legislative documents and statements from politicians to argue that the rule change was racially motivated. A 2022 resolution calling on then-Mayor Jim Kenney to study the impact of the rule change, quote, repeatedly bemoans the fact that white men were obtaining too many promotions under the city's merit-based promotion system, unquote, the suit says, calling it, quote, one of the many examples of the city of Philadelphia's determination to impose illegal DEI practices that consciously and intentionally discriminate against white men, unquote. It's true. If you listen to the proponents of DEI over the years, they really, really hate white men. And I'm not just saying that, they say it. Another example cited in the lawsuit is a statement by Mayor Sherelle L. Parker, a council member at the time, who championed the change. She is quoted as saying that, quote, for too long, the rule of two has held back black and brown employees, unquote. Picking from the most credited and meritorious individuals, it gives us the wrong skin colors, guys. So we need to change that. The suit is the latest filed by a team of conservative lawyers against Philadelphia over efforts to address racial inequity. Yes, because as we know, inequity equates to inequality. Right? The attorneys include Pennsylvania's self-described go-to lawyer for Republicans. I got that kind of wrong. It's always about disparity. It's not so much inequity. Because they keep talking about, oh, we don't have enough of this kind of person. No, you're talking about a disparity. There's a difference between disparity and inequity. Or an injustice. I don't see enough of the kind of skin-colored people I want to see. Obviously, racism is afoot. So in order to cure this, I'm going to apply a racial preference, which is totally not racism. When I'm getting rid of the merit factor, now everything looks the way I want it to look. That's justice. The attorneys include Pennsylvania's self-described go-to lawyer for Republicans, Wally Zimmelong. Jonathan Mitchell, the former Texas Solicitor General who is credited as the legal mind behind that state's abortion ban, and attorneys from America First Legal, an organization formed by Trump advisor Stephen Miller. And so what does any of that have to do with the merit of the case, as it were? I don't know. In October, the group settled a lawsuit that claimed the city violated the Constitution by forcing bidders to sign agreements that included diverse workforce goals. The city agreed to pay $417,000 in attorney's fees and clarified that diversity benchmarks in project agreements were aspirational goals, not mandatory quotas. Aspirational goal. Oh boy, I haven't heard that used unironically in quite a while now. That was the defense put out by the several Democratic attorneys general in response to the Republican attorneys general letter in the aftermath of the affirmative action decision, where they said, companies, if you're still practicing DEI, be on the lookout, we're coming for you. And then the Democratic attorneys general response letter was effectively, no. What companies are doing with DEI, they aren't illegal quotas, they are aspirational diversity goals. So the city agreed to pay $417,000 in attorney's fees, but didn't actually have to suffer any consequences otherwise. Okay. That's great. Parker's administration ended a Philadelphia policy prioritizing businesses owned by women or people of color in city contracting shortly after the settlement. Oh, okay. Well, at least they changed their policy. They didn't admit to any wrongdoing. No. We weren't having racial quotas. No. But we'll just shut down the policies. Good. I mean, I prefer more, but that's better than nothing. And earlier this month, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit revived a lawsuit brought by Philadelphia school district parents challenging admission policy changes to selective schools as racially motivated. Given the pattern of behavior previously, I could believe it. The attorneys are not targeting Philadelphia, according to Zimmelong. Quote, Philadelphia just so happens to habitually enact policies that violate the United States Constitution, he said. Zimmelong declined to comment on the current lawsuit, as did the city's law department. The complaint names as defendants the city, the police department, Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel, Deputy Commissioner Krista Dahl-Campbell, and Philadelphia Chief Human Resources Officer Candy Jones. Candy Jones, that sounds like a sidekick from a 70s spy show or something. It asks a judge to order the promotion of the officers and declared that the city's current hiring policies are unlawful because they consider race and gender. Oh, you mean acknowledge that they are conceivably violating Title VII? Or, as well, Title VI, because I'm sure the Philadelphia Police Department is the recipient of federal financial assistance. You think they'll do that? Think they'll admit to it? Police Lieutenants Bloom, Berg, and Musumisi sought promotions in the fall of 2025. There were 10 available positions, and the trio ranked 8th, 11th, and 13th respectively on the captain's eligibility list based on exam scores. Well, but who cares about exam scores? We got rid of that part of the process a long time ago, right? After interviews, 6 candidates were passed over in favor of those with lower scores. According to the complaint, 5 of those 6 were white males. The lawsuit alleges a similar pattern when the department decided not to promote Sergeants Monticello and Ziegler. Quote, Monticello and Ziegler were passed over for promotion in favor of lower-ranked female or minority candidates with lower scores on the civil service examination, the suit says. Yes, but we got rid of that requirement. Merit doesn't matter anymore. It's targeted universalism, guys. It's the fair doctrine. It's about leveling lowering the standard, leveling the playing field. The Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 5 blasted the police department in a statement following the November promotions, saying the union filed grievances and was considering other actions against, quote, unfair DEI practices in law enforcement, unquote. The FOP also sent a letter asking the U.S. Department of Justice asking to review the promotion criteria, the suit says. I did a little compilation stream, it must be 2 years ago now, about a program that was being implemented in many different police departments across the country. I remember there was one, I think it was in Virginia and, was it Seattle? What was that? Oh man, I gotta find that. I gotta find that on my my playlist here, just for reference, because I don't know if Philadelphia implemented this, but something similar has been going on in various police departments for a while now. Let me see if I can find that. What was it called? It was like 30 by 30 or something. Oh, it's been a while. Let's see. What do you know? 30 by 30. Justice needs a gender quota. Let's see. I wonder if that's still active. And no, not the great. Actually, I guess that was 30 for 30. That was the ESPN documentary series. The 30 for 30, 30 by 30 initiative. Are they still active? They are still active. Okay. Well, I've had enough of this this particular news story. I think we get the gist. Let's go over to the 30 for 30 initiative just to remind ourselves what else is going on in law enforcement. The 30 by 30 pledge, actions policing agencies can take to support and advance women. Oh, it was women specifically. Okay. I thought it was writ large, but here we go. Introduction. The 30 by 30 pledge is a series of no or low-cost actions policing agencies can take to improve the representation and experiences of women in sworn positions in all ranks. These actions reflect what police leaders, researchers, and industry experts have indicated are critical to understanding the current state of a department with regards to gender equity, etc., etc., etc. Who has taken the pledge? Do we have a list? We used to have a list. Yeah, baseline data. I wonder if Philadelphia was one of them. Let's see. Right. Do we have a list of, let's see, partners and support? Microsoft Justice Reform Initiative, of course. Research partners. Very diverse crowd here. Oh, there's a guy. There's a man. Oh my gosh. He is but one. Oh, two. I take it back. Oh my gosh. Partnerships. Steering committee. Let's see. I wish if they have a list of who's taken the pledge on here, I don't see it. Badge of honor. What works? Why it's important. Can women fix the police? Oh boy. Well, anyway, that just brought that to mind. So, anyway, yeah. So, a class action lawsuit against the police department in Philadelphia over racist and sexist hiring policies. Will it go anywhere? Will they settle for some dollar amount and just quietly turn everything off again without admitting any fault? I'm guessing that's probably what the outcome's going to be if the other case is any indication. But there you go. Abdicata, seems like the number of the police already match the demographics pretty closely. I don't know. I don't know. And is that the metric by which police department should be hired for? I don't know. Wait, I saw a celebrity in the chat. Wait a second. There he is. Andy, the Toy Master Masterson. There is functionally no Republicans in Philly. Yeah, how these policies keep getting passed over and over again, how you remove merit, nobody seems to give a rip, and then this just kind of goes on for years. Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let's see. Who else is here? What else? Yeah, because again, you would think Philadelphia would have a better grasp on the Constitution, seeing as how it was written there. Nope. Spoonie the Rebel. I'm going to be that guy and say that most women shouldn't even be cops. Now, hey now. If you pass all the standards, as long as the standards have not been lowered to the basement, like in New York City Fire Department, where they lowered all the standards to justify having more women in the department and then give the fire chief job to a woman who'd never really fought fires before or something. It just, no. Equal standards. Just set a standard. What is necessary to do the job? How much weight do you have to carry a person or to carry the equipment? If you can do that, you pass. Just have a standard and set the standard. That's it. Especially when it comes to life-saving positions. And that's why the scariest DEI programs have been in police, firefighting, airline pilots, and medicine. Not to say that there's not plenty of other places that are just as dangerous, but when you talk about hands-on taking care of someone's life or seeing to their well-being, DEI is, who knows, and we'll never know how many injuries or lives have been put at risk or lost as a result of DEI being imposed on these areas of our lives. But yeah, so the rule of two. The Sith Order was at one time in function in Philadelphia. Well, hey, if it works, who am I to complain? Moving on, there was something, for those of you that watched my impromptu State of the Union speech coverage, there was one particular thing Donald Trump said in the course of that State of the Union address that spoke directly to me. And I made note of it at the time. And though I am loath to admit it, he's still wrong. I wish he was right. Trump says he ended DEI. Courts disagree. Well, at this point, the courts are going to have a big problem going up against established civil rights law as time goes on, I think. But just to get some perspective from another direction here. President Trump touted to raucous Republican applause during his State of the Union address this week that, quote, "We ended DEI in America." I said no, because it ain't true. as we've seen over and over again, because I keep having reasons to do this show. So, a year into Trump's crusade to eradicate, quote, anti-white racism, unquote. Well, that's one way of putting it, but it's also just rampant racial and gender discrimination. Some of the administration's most ambitious diversity, equity, and inclusion rollbacks are stalled in court. Yeah, such as... Why it matters. With Congress aligned with the White House, the judiciary has become the primary check for civil rights advocates who argue the administration is distorting long-standing equity laws. Distorting long-standing equity laws. Okay, so you're not allowed to hire on the basis of race. Put that up against every diversity report from the Fortune 500 companies over the last 6 or 7 years in particular. And tell me that it doesn't look like they've been hiring on the basis of race. DEI policies are, quote, being used as a sword, not a shield, unquote. Leah Watson, an ACLU racial justice program attorney, tells Axios. DEI policies have been used as a sword to denounce and decry people on the basis of their race or their gender or their orientation. I don't know. Well, I mean, you're part of the ACLU racial justice program, so I don't know if you've seen or heard what DEI advocates have been saying and doing for the last decade or so, but the intrigue. Ooh, DEI policies are intentionally broad to repair decades of discrimination. They're not that broad. No. If you're white, male, and stale, you're out. Listen to the DEI proponents. Listen to the DEI executives. Read the diversity reports that have been coming out of the corporations and organizations for the last decade. Anyway, intentionally broad to repair decades of discrimination, but the administration has declined to define what it considers illegal while warning of severe consequences, creating a chilling effect. Okay, what it considers illegal? Oh, I don't know. How about Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964? It's been available for a while now if you'd like to consult it, or Title VII. It's kissing cousin. That kind of lays it out pretty plain. I don't know. What does the Trump administration consider illegal as compared to, long-established civil rights laws? Institutions often anticipatorily comply, Watson said, eliminating programs, positions, and offices to avoid scrutiny. Yeah. And they also sometimes overreact and then blame Trump for trying to erase our histories. They want to fly under the radar, but you cannot over-comply with the Trump administration enough to fly under its radar. Yeah, especially since, seemingly, based on the comments from Andrea Lucas, the chairman of the EEOC, you're not going to get away with it if you just change your tune now, because they're going historical. They're going to the archives. They're going to your old reports. Yeah, you can't just, I've been driving at 97 miles an hour in a 35 zone for the last 10 miles. I'm going to slow down to 35 just as I see the cop. I wasn't breaking the law before then. Now I'm behaving myself. By leaving the term as an undefined boogeyman, she added, what term? What term are you talking about? DEI? DEI is an undefined term? Really? She added, the administration has been able to kill lawful DEI efforts that otherwise might not withstand court challenges. The administration has been able to kill lawful DEI efforts that otherwise might not withstand court challenges. Interesting construction of a sentence there. That's almost like shot an elephant in my pajamas kind of thing. Okay. In courtrooms across the country, judges are weighing in on cases related to education, the environment, and employment. I'm sure they are. Here's the thing. having allowed these programs to continue and proliferate over the last decade without any kind of reasonable check against established civil rights laws does not mean they are legal. Going for that significant period of time without enforcing the law may make it seem like nothing's wrong or untoward about these policies until you test them against the laws. And my traditional reading of the Thomas Sowell quote, when people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like discrimination. Yeah, it might seem like the Trump administration is coming down unfairly on these things, only because people before him and even his previous administration didn't when they should have. Quote, just because the Trump administration says DEI is dead does not make it so, Watson said. Well, on that, we can agree. Yeah, his saying it is dead does not mean it is dead. Let's see. And then this, okay. Oh, then we have a list of things. Equal education. The Education Department issued a Valentine's Day 2025 Dear Colleague letter directing schools to roll back DEI policies, citing the Supreme Court's affirmative action ruling and warning that race-based efforts tied to diversity or equity are illegal. I know. What a controversial thing to say about the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and how if you have any racially based programs or activities in your federally subsidized organization, it's against the law. I know. Crazy, crazy thing. Some schools responded by canceling affinity events and scaling back diversity programs, advocates say. Well, good. Because what are affinity events? Events based around a oftentimes racial component, gender, or orientation. So under the established law, you might only be in trouble for the racial part, but, the gender thing and the orientation thing, there are plenty of state laws and elsewise that kind of indicate that's probably a bad idea too. Courts have since blocked parts of the policy, and while the administration dropped one appeal, uncertainty over what's allowed persists, prompting moves like USC shutting down its Inclusion Office website and renaming DEI-related positions. It's pretty simple. They're acting like, oh, we don't know what it means. What does DEI even mean? They say we can't have any DEI programs. I don't know what that means. I've been practicing DEI for 10 years. How do I know what I am and not supposed to do? It gets very tiring. Whitewashing history. In February, a federal judge ordered the government to restore a Philadelphia slavery exhibit it had taken down, determining the administration cannot dissemble historical truths. Wait, the federal government had a Philadelphia slavery exhibit taken down? Odd news to me. Let's see. Oh, right. The National Park Service. Yeah, so someone in the National Park Service took it upon themselves to overinterpret the anti-DEI stuff. Yeah, I remember this story. I think I covered this story. Yeah, it wasn't an edict come down from the Trump administration. It was some overzealous nut job in the National Park Service that either misinterpreted what was going on or did that whole petulant compliance thing to make a statement. Environmental justice, employment opportunities. Yeah, it's very simple, guys. Either you're complying with Title VI and Title VII or you're not. And if you're not, then you need to be punished. You need to have your funding cut. You need to have your contracts rescinded or other legal action needs to take place. And if you're hiring people on the basis of their race or gender. It's pretty simple. But they go, oh, I don't know what it means. What does it mean to get rid of all of our DEI programs? Oh. Silliness. Jill Powers, Dems always skirt the rhetoric to get their way. Yeah, it's like on one hand, DEI is part of the air that we drink and the dirt that we breathe. It's not a nice to have, it's a business imperative. You need to get rid of all your DEI policies. I don't know what that means. What am I supposed to do? Drives me up the wall. Up the wall. So Zenu El Richard. We live in a world where having testicles doesn't make one man or male. Where having a uterus doesn't make one a woman or a female, at least to some. It's true. It's bizarrely true. Darren Root, it means didn't earn it. That's basically it. Yeah, elevation without merit. To try to be a salve on historical wrongdoings by punishing people today for what they look like. Too many people that look like you have had advantages in the past. You must suffer. What did I do? Exist. Anyway, so on the one hand, Donald Trump overstated reality, saying he ended DEI in America. No, that's going to require, again, vigilance and consequence. The former we'll have to see. The latter, we've seen some indications, mostly with colleges, but we really need to dig into corporate America. Until there are meaningful consequences in corporate America to dissuade these companies and organizations from even tempting fate again with these kind of policies, it's just going to keep bubbling under the surface. Because over and over again, we've seen hidden camera things at universities and colleges where they're like, well, we had to change some stuff on the website, but we're still doing what we want to do. No. Yeah, no. There has to be an audit process. There has to be a compliance requirement, and some kind of certification. We did that story the other week about the airport. That is by the Department of Transportation has to certify they're in compliance with civil rights laws before they get their benefits back. That's part of what should be done. An audit, a certification, demand for compliance. And not with the Trump administration, but with existing civil rights laws that have been around since the 60s. They keep trying to assign this to Donald Trump, somehow trying to twist existing civil rights. No, he's trying to enforce them. It's plain as day. But just because Donald Trump says something, it's obviously wrong. All right? That's why you have the Democratic Party seemingly worshiping the Iranian Ayatollah regime now. Madness. And not one step beyond. Moving on, let's take a look at The Hill, who is trying to salvage something, I guess. Let's not throw the DEI baby out with the bathwater. The DEI baby. Okay, well, in this analogy, the baby is something precious, right? Something precious that has to be protected. And the bathwater is, bathwater. So what constitutes the DEI baby in this rendition? Conservative attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion accelerated sharply following the Supreme Court's 2023 decision ending the use of race in admissions in higher education. Attacks? And so, are you going to assess what the court said and why affirmative action is a contradiction of established civil rights laws, and that maybe the attacks are justified? Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts declared that the educational benefits of diversity are not, quote, sufficiently coherent to pass constitutional muster. Well, I listened to the oral arguments. I listened to the attorneys for the colleges trying to make the case that the argument to diversity is good enough to keep affirmative action. Did you listen to the oral arguments? Because their pitch was pretty weak. Are you not going to address John Roberts' assessment of that or the lawyer's sales pitch? Okay. In the last 2 years, critics have blamed DEI for just about everything, from the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge to the scale of the Los Angeles wildfires. Well, I don't know. Putting somebody into a position of authority over the fire department that doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't have any experience, and actually that one lady who told everybody in a public promotional piece that she's not going to be the one to carry your husband out of the burning house. Okay. And are those claims hyperbolic? Do they have any merit? Are you just going to bring them up and not address either how ridiculous they are or whether there's any truth to it? Okay, President Trump even suggested that DEI hires at the Federal Aviation Administration may have caused last year's fatal midair collision between an American Airlines jet and a military helicopter. Okay. And from the moment he returned to office, Trump has waged an all-out assault on, quote, illegal and immoral discrimination programs going by the name diversity, equity, and inclusion, unquote. His administration has closed DEI offices and programs across the federal government, pressured private companies to follow suit, and weaponized federal funding and civil rights investigations to compel colleges and universities to abandon, quote, racial preferences in admissions, financial aid, and hiring. Hey! Do I have to do this? Do I have to point to the card again? Not the cardigan, but the card again. Weaponized federal funding and civil rights investigations. Do you mean Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which says, and I will read it again, it prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. If a recipient of federal assistance is found to have discriminated and voluntary compliance cannot be achieved, the federal agency providing the assistance should either initiate fund termination proceedings or refer the matter to the Department of Justice for appropriate legal action. They are not doing something untoward or unprecedented in saying, behave yourself or you will face consequences under civil rights laws long established. But oh no, this is some kind of weird distortion that the Trump administration is making of the rules that you're supposed to play by, especially now that affirmative action is out the window and you don't have that as an excuse. Anyway, Frank Hubbard, thank you so very much. Did you hear what happened to the lady who said you shouldn't have been caught in the fire? They're not hiring on race, they're qualifying based on it. I know. Yep. Yeah, there was that little promotional video, but I forget what her position was. She wasn't the fire chief. She was someone else in the fire department, and she was like, you know, if your husband gets caught in the fire, I'm not going to be the one to carry him out. Something to that effect. Like, great. It's good to know that the Los Angeles Fire Department's there to save your life from a burning building, except they're not going to. Okay, so anyway, we're back to everything Trump says is wrong. Let's see. At least 22 states have piled on with their own anti-DEI legislation. Okay, so let me ask you something. The Hill, is it all just nonsense? Is it all just... There's no basis whatsoever to any of these theories or complaints or anything? You bring them up and you list them. Like I'm supposed to read those and just go, huh, obviously Trump's being ridiculous, or obviously that theory's nonsense. Well, are you going to tell us that they are nonsense? Thank you again, Frank Hubbard. His girlfriend/wife offed her. Wait, what? Wait, the lady in the video? What? Who? What? Wait a second. Okay. I heard about... Wait, I know. I do remember hearing about this. I don't remember the circumstances. Okay. Yolanda Marodi, 54, is accused of killing her spouse of 2 years. California Fire Captain Becky Marodi. Okay, February 17th. Okay, yeah. Okay. Right. So, was the lady that was killed the lady in the video? Is that what I'm confusing here, or must be, right? Wife of California fire captain stabbed 23 times, ordered to stand. Okay, well, I was referencing a thing said by a person in the fire department. I'm not making light of their death. Okay. Well, thank you for that reminder, grim as it is. Anyway, back to the Hill. In The Diversity Principle, the story of a transformative idea, David B. Oppenheimer, I have become death. Okay. The Destroyer of Worlds. A clinical professor of the law at the University of California, Berkeley, challenges Robert's views by tracing claims over the last 2 centuries that diverse groups outperform homogeneous ones in, quote, solving problems, making discoveries, teaching and learning from each other, and improving democratic discourse, unquote. Yes, but define diverse in this context. What is the major factor in diversity in this context? We're not talking about diversity of thought. We're not talking about diversity of experience. That has not been the standard. It's been diversity of appearance. Look at any diversity report from these Fortune 500 companies. They don't track diversity of thought. They don't track diversity of experience. They track race and gender. So David B. Oppenheimer, if you believe that diversity means anything other than the elimination of merit and the elevation of aesthetic principles, then maybe you could fool yourself into thinking there's a problem with getting rid of DEI. And the Hill obviously isn't going to define diversity as it is used in the corporate world here either, apparently. The Supreme Court began to focus on the educational benefits of diversity in 1978, he reminds us, when Alan Bakke, or Back, a white man, alleged he had been denied admission to the University of California at Davis Medical School in favor of less qualified minority applicants. In Regents of the University of California versus Back, 4 justices wanted to strike down the university's quota system as a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It is a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. See, affirmative action was always a sort of necessary, a morally necessary exception to the established rule. And I've argued this as well. Just because the 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed does not mean that you cured racism from the country, or that everyone who existed and lived under the oppressive rules that had been part and parcel with this country's history for the years previous suddenly were cured. And all of the opportunities and possible advantages they could have had under a more equitable system were suddenly given to them. That's not the case. So, as I've said, having a period of time after the Civil Rights Act was passed, where some allowance is made for people on the basis of their race to try to make up for lost time, makes moral sense, even if it is a direct contradiction of the established law at that point. And I said that it should have lasted a generation. So 30, 35 years, something like that. It should have ended in the late 90s or 2000, something like that. Except it went on for another 23 years, 30 years, whatever. And so it had run its course. And at a certain point, if you're not going to adhere to the law as established, then you might as well get rid of the law, or you have to get rid of the policy that is outright violating the law. And affirmative action was an accepted violation of civil rights law. Anyway, in Regents of the University of California v. Bakke, 4 justices wanted to strike down the university's quota system as a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The 4 liberal justices voted to uphold the system as a means to remedy the effects of societal discrimination. Yes, at that time, in the wake of 1964's Civil Rights Act, it made moral sense to allow for preferential treatment for a time. That time has long ended, and the Supreme Court only made a decision that probably should have happened 25 years ago. But anyway, relying heavily on a brief authored by former Solicitor General Archibald Cox. Archibald Cox! I remember Archibald Cox. Well, I don't remember him, but I remember him historically. In an earlier case, Justice Lewis Powell held that universities have a First Amendment interest in assembling diverse student bodies to foster the, quote, robust exchange of ideas central to their mission. Except that assumes, in the definition of diversity now, that skin color defines quality of thought. And is that the road you really want to go down? Diverse student bodies. Again, they're trying. It's like, you know, it's like saying immigrant, and then trying to say that anything you do against an immigrant is obviously wrong, without admitting that there are two categories: legal and illegal. Diversity, doing anything against diversity is inherently wrong, except you have actual diversity of thought, and then you just have diversity of melanin count or genitalia. Although Powell's reasoning stood alone, later decisions adopted it, making the diversity principle the constitutional foundation for affirmative action. Over time, it became the basis for DEI programs in business, government, and the military, as well as higher education. Okay, but was it not inherently contradictory to the Constitution? Was it inherently contradictory to the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Wasn't affirmative action an accepted exception to the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Powell's critics think the educational benefits rationale is a more fragile basis than the need to remedy past discrimination for a policy as important and controversial as affirmative action. In our view, this is the Hill talking now, both Justice Powell and his critics were right. Okay, as Oppenheimer demonstrates, numerous students indicate that diversity enhances group performance. Numerous studies indicate? How? In what way? What do you mean enhances group performance? And by diversity, do you mean skin color or actual merit of experience and skill? He also points to research showing that, quote, surface level diversity that is easily identifiable, such as racial and gender diversity, is beneficial, unquote, in part because members of homogeneous groups may be less willing to voice dissenting views. Members of homogeneous groups may be less willing to voice dissenting views. So, members of diverse groups express dissenting views more often? Okay, so what you're saying is, let's ignore Title VII. I'm not sure what else to make of this, except that obviously Title VII is incorrect and should be done away with. If research shows that picking people for your team on the basis of their surface level quality is good, then Title VII just became irrelevant. Or am I misinterpreting things here? In what came to be known as the business case for diversity, studies by McKinsey & Company and others found a strong positive relationship between diversity at the executive level and higher corporate earnings. As recently as 2022, 80% of Fortune 500 companies cited the expectation of improved performance as their principal justification for diversity-related hiring. Okay. Well, as I have asked numerous times before, the first significant McKinsey study on this topic came out in 2015. Okay. So it has been over a decade now since this theory has been pushed and been cited over and over again. Where's the success story? 80% of Fortune 500 companies cited the expectation of improved performance. Okay, well, where is the resultant improved performance you'd like to point to? Name the company. You guys know this. Veterans of my channel know this by now. Every single time I hear this, whether they cite McKinsey directly or just, amorphously. And they say, oh yeah, DEI improves company performance. We know. Research tells us. The science tells us. It improves the bottom line. Great. Show me the money, Lebowski. How many times have I said this same set of words or something similar over the last 10 years? Show me the company who, on March 1st of 2017, implemented their DEI policy. And then 5 years later, show me where their bottom line is as a direct relation. Not correlation. Causation. DEI made our line go up. There must be an active example by now. After a decade or more of this, The Hill, in your amazing research capacity, should be able to point me to that company. That Fortune 500 company. The 80% of the Fortune 500 companies. Which one actually benefited from DEI, that had an ROI on DEI? Oppenheimer acknowledges, however, that, quote, not every study supports the proposition that diversity produces value, unquote. Not the kind of diversity you're talking about. A 2024 study, for example, argues that better financial performance leads to greater diversity, not the other way around. I don't know that study, but I don't care about that study. I care about the studies being used to justify rampant sexism and racism. So, in higher education, diversity of all kinds, including race, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic, geographic, and viewpoint, only one element on there even hints at something meritorious. Your race says nothing about you. Your gender says nothing about you. Your sexual orientation says nothing about you. Your socioeconomic status says nothing about you. Your geographic location says nothing about you. Your viewpoint may, in fact, express something about who you are. All of these things, however, can benefit students' learning. How? By all means, tell me how. Specifically, tell me how the mystic chords of melanin, the generational gestation of genitals, the something alliterative device of sexual orientation, how does all of this somehow contribute to my education? I mean, I'm open to it. You say it. This is like watching a DEI presentation. You promise a lot of things. You say a lot of things are true. Back it up with something. But here's the thing. Even if you could somehow, even in the abstract, justify to me that populating a campus or a workforce or something else on the basis of race or gender ends up having positive effects, it would still be racist and sexist, would it not? What is the point of the Civil Rights Act? What's the point of Title VI and Title VII if you're just going to continually argue that they shouldn't matter? Critics of DEI bristle whenever anyone asserts that racism in the U.S. is systemic. No. I agree it's systemic. It is systemic. It's called DEI. It's called DEI. DEI is the most rampant movement of systemic racism in my lifetime. It has a name. It has a process. It has defenders. It has champions all the time. No. I completely agree that there is systemic racism in the United States. When the federal government, for years now, has required recipients of federal contracts to set aside certain amounts of their money in order to hire suppliers on the basis of the race or gender of the owners of those supplying companies, yes, racism is systemic in the United States. I'm not going to bristle over that. I completely agree. But as Oppenheimer demonstrates what? The evidence that past and present discrimination produces, quote, interrelated and compounding disadvantages is overwhelming. No, I agree. I agree. When you start to discriminate in order to solve for historic discrimination, you compound disadvantages to people, both those suffering the discrimination and other people who might benefit from having actual qualified individuals in the positions that are at stake. You have a knock-on effect. If you put somebody into charge of the fire department who does not know what they're doing, it's not just the person who wasn't hired for the fire department job that suffers. It's the public writ large when you have an incompetent running the fire department. Anyway, I could go on. But I've got at least one more article I want to get to. And, of course, your guys' comments. Susanna Al-Bashar, the national report card does look a bit better on some fronts over some metrics in the last 5 years, but not on the long-term scale of the tracking. It's going to take time to unwind all this stuff. First and foremost, you'd have to draw a clear line where these policies and practices fall out of favor and fall out of implementation. And we haven't reached that yet because for all of the, we've gotten rid of our DEI program, just changing the names, changing the title, the job titles, it doesn't make it go away. Again, we have to have meaningful consequence. We have to have a watershed moment of this is something that's going to get you into trouble. Actual, meaningful, dare I say, substantive trouble. I said substantive trouble. I said... Yeah, anyway. Jill Powers. Fahrenheit 451 is one of my favorite novellas. Well, good for you. Not good. Do I have a favorite novella? I mean, I have every book series. World War by Harry Turtledove. That's a good book series. The first series. The subsequent sequel series were not so great, but those were good. What was that one? There's it's probably out. It's probably out of print. There was, at the time the Mars Attacks movie came out. I know, a long time ago. There was a series of, I think it was just 2 novels that were written sort of inspired by the old Topps playing cards of Mars Attacks, which, as far as I'm concerned, is not what the movie represents, because the movie was a comedy, whereas the cards were basically horror cards and depicted the atrocities of actual war and so on. Anyway, there were 2 novels that were produced as part of the rush to promote the movie and also the revitalization of the Topps Mars Attacks series. And the first novel in the pair, it was called something like Maniac Mansion or something. It wasn't Maniac Mansion, but it was something like that. And it is a great little horror adventure story. And then the second book was called War Dogs of the Golden Horde. And it told a story of how a modern day, like, Genghis Khan rose up in modern day Mongolia as the world was falling apart from the alien invasions, and this guy formed a new golden horde to oppose the alien menace. And it was great. It's great pulp stuff. I have both of those books in my hardcover, collector's items, I'm sure, at this point. I love those. I love those books. Anyway. Kiro Soldier, thanks so much. Do you have Johnny Boomer Tech working for you? I either had Johnny Boomer Tech working for me, or because I have so many Stinger videos in my little StreamYard menu, it's difficult for me to find the one that I want as immediately as I used to be able to, because all you get is a little thumbnail to tell you what the video is. And so, yeah. Anyway, one more story before we wrap up for today. Speaking of, DEI rollbacks and things and Trump ending DEI in America, Boston just dropped its $2.45 billion payroll, and it shows the city is spending millions on a DEI empire of nearly 200 employees while laying off 400 teachers. Let's see. What's this? Oh, editor's note. Okay. The article has been updated with additional departments and revised totals after further analysis of the 2025 payroll database. The original version identified $6.17 million across 99 employees in eight departments. Excuse me. The updated figure reflects $11.6 million across 169 employees in 11 departments. The city of Boston quietly released its annual payroll data at 5 p.m. on the last Friday of February, a tradition at City Hall that practically begs the question, what are they hoping nobody reads? The story is from yes, okay, just making sure. 2025 payroll, I'm thinking, wait a second. A mass daily news analysis of the 2025 payroll database found that the city is spending millions every year on a sprawling network of diversity, equity, inclusion, and identity-focused departments, even as Boston Public Schools prepares to lay off between 300 and 400 staff amid declining enrollment and a ballooning $1.7 billion school budget. The overall city payroll came in at $2.45 billion for 2025, up 1.48% year over year, according to the Boston Herald, which first reported the release. The database lists more than 25,000 entries from a superintendent earning $377,000 down to an $11.67 substitute teacher. A substitute teacher got $11.67? But what it's hiding in the middle of that spreadsheet, but it's what's hiding in the middle of that spreadsheet that tells you where the priorities actually are. A search of the 2025 payroll database reveals at least 169 city employees spread across 11 departments and standalone roles dedicated to diversity, equity, inclusion, and identity-based programming. Together, they cost the taxpayers approximately $11.6 million last year. The Office of Equity, which appears to be a new citywide department under Mayor Wu, leads the pack with 32 employees and a $1.94 million total payroll. Chief of Equity, I thought that was a title. Sorry. Chief of Equity, Mariangeli Solis Cervera earned $176,538. She's supported by special assistants, making $136,002, a senior director at $121,455, a chief of staff at $123,261, a division director at $123,523, and a director of admin and finance at $111,962. The department also employs multiple board members receiving $2,500 stipends. Holy cats, man. So the chief of equity needs a special assistant, a senior director, a chief of staff, a division director, and a director of administration and finance to do equity. Everyone. And what is equity? I don't know. The Supplier Diversity Office. Jeez. Boston I'm sure there must be other cities, but man, as far as just revealed, Boston has the biggest DEI grift. The Supplier Diversity Office, because you need one of those, has 12 employees costing $1.03 million. The BPS Equity Department, because just having a chief of equity, it's okay. We have a separate department, A separate equity department. The BPS equity department, embedded inside the same school system that's about to cut hundreds of jobs, has 16 employees, costing $873,222. Assistant Superintendent Rebecca Schuster tops the department at $179,729. What do you do for this? If only I lacked integrity and scruples back in 2018, I could have sold myself as a DEI consultant and made bank. I had absorbed so much stuff by then on DEI. Thank you again, Frank Hubbard. They did the same thing in my company based out of the police city story earlier. Then begged the government for more money. Yeah. It's a constant money pit. You know, they can't let it go. And this is why they're so desperate to try to change the narrative on what DEI is and what it does. They have to move away, as we've seen in the FAIR doctrine and targeted universalism, they have to move away from the most obvious indicators that something unfair is happening, like hiring someone for a job that is demonstrably less qualified than someone else, and the differential seems to be race or gender. Instead, they're going to eliminate merit. Because merit is the one thing you can point to and say, that seems like an odd decision you did, hiring that person versus that person when this person's more qualified. There's a foothold there for a lawsuit. Well, if we eliminate merit, if we lower the standards down to the basement, then someone with the lowest possible qualifications is just as good as somebody with the highest. In fact, someone with too many qualifications is overqualified, and we want somebody who's fresh. So yeah, lowering standards. Because otherwise, if DEI doesn't change its tune, then it's going to go by the wayside. As more lawsuits come in and it becomes less lucrative an idea for companies to want to implement DEI policies if they're just going to be inviting lawsuits. And so DEI is doing everything it can to survive and still make the money. Got to bring the money in. We've gotten used to these millions and billions of dollars being thrown on us over the last decade. We can't turn off the spigot now by giving up because we have no other employable skills. I've been doing DEI for a decade. And what does that mean? Okay, the Office of Immigrant Advancement. Employs 17 people at a cost of $870,876. Led by Director Monique Nguyen Belisario at $126,153. Man, why can't I get one of these jobs? I'd be so good at it too. I am primed for one of these DEI departmental jobs. $126,000 a year to do DEI. Oh gosh. Heck, you know, the effort I put into these streams every week would probably be on par. Actually, I probably put more work into these than they do. The Fair Housing and Equity Department, you could maybe make an argument for that one, has 13 employees totaling $777,485, led by Executive Director Robert Lee Terrell at $128,317. Okay, fair housing and equity. Now, see, when it comes to housing, equity takes on a completely different connotation. So I need to know the specifics of that. See, and this is the insidious part about it, right? If the word equity appears, it doesn't necessarily mean something untoward's going on. You have to actually look at what they're doing. But if you put it into the context of DEI, it is suspect. That is a red flag. The LGBTQ plus advancement office, because people need to be given preferential treatment for their bedroom athletics, has 5 employees costing $408,504, led by Director Julianne Lee at $132,370. Okay. I'm pausing. I'm stuttering in my step there for a reason, and you're about to hear it. The Black Male Advancement Office, and this is the author of the article talking in this next bit, not me. Yes, that's a real city department. Has 12 employees, costing $912,348. Executive Director Frank Farrow earned $128,557. The department also employs a special assistant at $115,000, a policy analyst and project manager at $98,000, and an office manager at $97,000. Okay, you know, I have a feeling. I have a feeling that the city of Boston is the recipient of federal financial assistance. I just have a feeling. And with that likely being the case, having a... what was that? How was it titled again? The Black Male Advancement Office. Having that office in place and people being paid, and I would assume this is an office that's been around for a while, the city of Boston should have all of its federal funding and contracts pulled immediately. I don't know that I'd need more than that to tell me that that is a violation of Title VI, at the very least. Trump has threatened other cities, sanctuary cities, pulling their federal funding and such. I think the city of Boston needs to get an earful on Title VI. The Family and Community Advancement Department is the largest single line item in the identity-based apparatus, with 47 employees and $4 million in total payroll. Deputy Superintendent Anna Tavares earned $226,000. Two chief engagement officers each earned $194,000. The Office of Food Justice. The city of Boston is an absolute cartoon. The Office of Food Justice has 11 employees totaling $515,000, led by a director of food initiative at $126,000. The Office of Women's Advancement rounds out the roster with 4 employees totaling $267,000, edging towards $268,000. Standalone diversity officers in the police department, fire department, and the Office of People Operations add another $355,000, including Director of Diversity Bernadine DeSantis at $124,000, BFD Diversity Officer Michael Gaskins at $116,000, and BPD Diversity Officer Susan Hemley at $114,000. Good gravy. It's not just the equity departments. The payroll is dotted with positions that read like a parody of progressive municipal government. The city's nightlife czar, Korean Reynolds, listed as an advisor in the Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, collected $132,000. That's the same office formerly run by Segun Iduo, the $184,000 a year Chief of Economic Development who left the role amid controversy earlier this year. Idawu still shows up in the 2025 payroll at $183,000. The Environment Department has 47 employees at $3.38 million, including 2 people who held the title of Chief of Environment and Energy in the same year, suggesting a mid-year turnover. One earned $101,000 and the other $83,000. The department also lists a Okay, this is how it's spelled. DIRCCE, or Director of CCE, which I guess is Chief... I don't know what that is. Director of CCE at $112,000, and a fellow environment earning $19,000. I can be a fellow to the environment. I can water some plants out on my deck. Is that going to be $19,000 a year? The timing of the payroll release is hard to ignore. BPS is staring down a $1.7 billion budget that Chief Financial Officer David Bloom has described as deeply constrained by escalating health insurance costs, transportation expenses, special education costs, and collective bargaining increases. Well, can we get rid of the black male advancement department entirely and just give that money to the schools? Or all of it? Enrollment has dropped by roughly 3,000 students from the 2024-2025 school year. Why? The district plans to eliminate about 530 positions total, with 300 to 400 of those affecting current staff, teachers, paraprofessionals, and support workers who interact with students every day. Meanwhile, BPS maintains a 16-person equity department with an assistant superintendent earning nearly $180,000 and multiple six-figure managers, plus interns. Interns earning between $10,000 and $38,000. The school superintendent herself earned, and I'm using the word earned very loosely here. Very, very, very loosely. The school superintendent herself earned $377,000. Quote, taxpayers in Boston should be outraged, Mass Fiscal's Paul Craney told the Herald. When property taxes increase by 10% or more, look at this story. The mayor is allowing it to happen. The payroll data also reveals a staggering $183 million in overtime spending across city departments. The police department accounted for a significant chunk. 33 officers earned $400,000 or more last year through a combination of base pay, detail, and overtime. You might want... I generally defer on the side of cops without evidence elsewise, but in this case, you might want to audit some of that overtime. BPT Captain Timothy Connolly took home $550,000, including $193,000 in overtime alone. The fire department had 3 employees who received $200,000 or more in injury pay. Well, I could believe that. Mayor Michelle Wu was paid $207,000. I appreciate they said paid and didn't say earned. Nobody is arguing that equity offices alone are bankrupting Boston. Certainly, but they're definitely a symptom of a larger problem, right? The $11.6 million identity-focused payroll is a fraction of the city's $2.45 billion budget. But when you're cutting 400 school jobs, watching enrollment crater, and asking taxpayers to absorb double-digit property tax increases, the question isn't whether the city can technically afford a chief of equity, an assistant superintendent of equity, a director of supplier equity, a director of LGBTQ advancement, a director of immigrant advancement, a director of women's advancement, a director of diversity, an executive director of black male advancement, a director of food justice, a nightlife czar, 2 chief engagement officers, and 158 other employees across 11 departments. The question is whether anyone at City Hall has looked at this spreadsheet and asked if this is really where the money should be going while teachers are cleaning out their desks. Or heck, how about fixing the roads, hiring more police officers? Good golly, what a farce. What an absolute... This should have been my... I didn't know this. I didn't know the totality of this story. This should have been my headline story. The Philadelphia Police Department being sued for discrimination is great. This is insane. Absolutely insane. And you know that something similar to this is and has been occurring in many cities across this country. I would be curious if similar payroll disclosures could be analyzed like this in, I don't know, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York City, Seattle, Portland. I'd love to see it. I mean, it would utterly depress and horrify me, but people should know where the money's going. $300,000? Or $268,000 to do what? Good golly. Grift is gonna grift is gonna grift. Let's see. Oh, you guys are talking to each other. You're not talking to me. Talks amongst yourselves. Oh, Jill Powers reminds guys, yes, don't forget to smash the like, subscribe, and share the stream. Hit notifications bell. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jill Powers. And everybody watching, if you haven't already, if you're not already subscribed, do subscribe. Hit the like button. And if you share this stuff out, my stuff or elsewise, on the Twitter machine, please do tag me in your tweet so that I know that you have done so I can thank you personally because I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Basically, administrators that don't do actual work. Yeah, it sounds like, no-show jobs. Like watching an episode of The Sopranos, they talk about no-show jobs. You get a paycheck. I'm part of the food justice department. Food. Man, those salaries. Holy cow. What a grift. Yeah, Boston, the city of Boston should have all of its federal funding pulled immediately. If they've been running a racially exclusionary department for who knows how long and paying out those kind of salaries, no. They're like, oh no! Like if I was the president, I pulled all that funding. They go like, oh, the president is punishing school students by pulling federal funding. Now we can't afford pencils and notebooks. You're like, no. You can't afford pencils and notebooks because you guys have wasted the taxpayers' money. You have to answer for that. Not me. You're breaking the law and being penalized for it is a consequence of your actions. So the voters of your city, your state, and so on, if they want to continue electing people who are more than willing to break the law, that is on them. But as long as they're breaking the law, consequences will befall. That's what I'd do. If I were president, I'd actually enforce the laws. I know, crazy idea. But anyway, anything else, guys, before I wrap up here? Simon Wilkins, there's also some strawberry vanilla in my fridge, but I think that's being used by someone else for overnight oats. Context is key. A bunch of useless departments. Sure sounds like it. Or whatever minute utility some of those departments possess could certainly be whittled down to just those components and consolidated into something else. And get rid of all the extra fat. Jay Blizzard, I'm having a nice fried fish dinner. Well, congratulations. You'll get your, fish oil supplements or your betas something or others. What is it that fish is supposed to have that's good for you? Aside from lead. Anyway. Can we get a link for that article? Links to all the articles are in the description below, guys. You'll find them down there. And that one was from Mass Daily, I think it was. So yeah, you just found it down there. Another week in the wonderful world of DEI. Donald Trump says it's ended. It's not. Municipalities are being sued. Good. Boston is burning money and people are getting... Can you imagine taking home a several $100,000 paycheck as the director of food justice? Ah. Oh, and Mr. Tickletrunk. Hello, Mr. Tickletrunk. Hope everything's going well over on Midnight's Edge in the morning. Hope those guys are doing good. I occasionally catch a few minutes after I'm done with my workday, but not much, so I hope everything's well over there. I bet the Paramount purchase of Warner Brothers is just going over well with everybody. I just as a completely unrelated joke, I came up with so because Paramount bought Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers owns HBO Max, and also Paramount owns Paramount Plus. There was a news thing that came out today that said they were going to like merge the two streaming services together. And I have a proposal, and I'm happy for Skydance, the parent company, to contact me. Call it Maxamount Plus Plus. Because I figure by the time they merge the two services together, it may have the highest price tag for service of all the streamers. But of course, you're getting double the bang for your buck. You're getting all the Paramount and all the Warner Brothers. Yeah, Maxamount Plus Plus. Anyway, bad puns aside, because I'm not Walter Tomaszewski. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or, again, guys, at the top of the chat box, a GoFundMe for Trucker with a Tablet, who you may recognize from the chat in previous times, needs some help with some medical bills. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. Programming note, the next time you'll see me here, unless something comes up or I get bored or something, will be Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of TED Excellence, where we take a look at another off-brand TED Talk for education and enlightenment. What kooky idea will we contemplate this week? I don't know. It'll be good, though. Or bad. Entertainingly so. With bingo. But elsewise, everybody, hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. Hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care.